Well, let's take a look at images. Okay, so we're going to bring up Notepad. And HTML, our header section, title, demonstration of images. Okay, and then closing header section and beginning body section. I'll go ahead and put the closing body section and closing HTML. Okay, now I want to bring in an image. Well, I need to get an image. So let's go bring up an image. Okay. And let's say I want to bring in Pink Panther. And choose images here. Okay, these are all our Pink Panthers. So I kind of like that image there. So I'm going to right click on it. And I'm going to say save image as. And then I want to put it in the same directory as my web page. It's going to be. So I go to temp. And I'll store it here. And it's called download PNG. Maybe something more useful. You can rename it to Pink Panther. .png and leave it as PNG. Don't change that. And I'll click save. Okay. And I'm looking for something here that. Okay, so I'm gonna save that. So I'll save the image as. I click that to get it to come up big like that. And Pink Panther. And click save. That's what this one is. Save images. I'm just right clicking on those. Okay. Probably won't be able to find the one I'm looking for. Okay, I guess that's good enough. Let me just scroll up here. Make sure nothing inappropriate came up when I was doing that. You have to be careful sometimes you go to Google. Okay, and I want to bring in one of those images. I'm going to have to come over here to my folder. And it's oftentimes useful to search by type so you can see what you're looking for. And here's our pinkpanther.png. So let's bring that in. So I'll do my image, and I'll say source is equal to, and then quotes, and then pinkpanther.png. Now notice I put a closing bracket like that, and we'll see it works. So I'll save that, choose all files, and I'll call this images.html. Okay, come over to my folder and find my images. Double click that. And it brings up the Pink Panther. Now, many of the items that are that pertain to other tags apply to these also. Big shouldn't do anything, but if I want to do a line break, then if I refresh that, see it's down the line. Let's put the other, and it has to be exact, by the way. If I left the R off, for example, here, like that, and if I come over here and refresh this, it isn't smart enough to recognize what the file name should be. So you have to be exact on that. Now, if I put an uppercase P here, we're going to see something happens. If I click refresh, it worked. Uppercase P worked. You you might be creating a web page on your computer, but then when you transfer it to like a Linux box, for example, which is a popular hosting, Windows and Linux are the two big ones, and for servers, and Linux is the more popular one because it's got less security issues. It is case sensitive, so it may not find that uppercase P. So even though your Windows will still work on it, you want to make sure that you're consistent. If it's in the file name it's lowercase, make sure this is lowercase. Now tags don't matter on that, but when you're referring to a file name, they do. For example, if I put a line break in here and I say image all uppercase, source equals the other name, which was where's it at? Pink. So pink underscore panther, and I've forgotten my quotes, but I'll go back and put those on, and JPEG. Now if I save that, we're going to see that it works fine. Then we got an image in there. Again, case does not matter when you're talking about your HTML tags, but if you're referring to another file, another web page on your computer or the server, then you want to make sure that's consistent. Now that one came in kind of big. One way is you can put some heights in here. You say height is equal to 200 and width is equal to 300. Let me save that and refresh this, and it'll resize my image. Now you have to be careful with that. If you put height as 1200 and refresh this, then you may not get what you want. I spelled width wrong. Actually helps to spell it right. Yeah, that's better. I was wondering why it didn't look skewed. So you can see that it doesn't follow your convention that you need for your image, so it looks good. Now, when you're changing size manually like this, then that's one of the places where you have to use college algebra. You have to set it up in a proportion. You have to look at what the original image was, and then you have to use proportions to figure out how to resize it. Or you can sit there and guess. Put like 300 in, see how that looks. And you might be able to eyeball it and see it. It depends on how good you want it to look, whether you need to use algebra or not. Now, if you're using some kind of graphical package, the graphical package will resize it, constraining the proportions, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, there's also another way. You can do an alt. And you can say alt is equal to picture of Pink Panther. And I'll save that. Now refresh it. It doesn't appear like it does anything, and it doesn't. Not to where you can see it. But if you have somebody accessing your website who's blind, who's vision impaired, then when they do their screen reader, JAWS is one of them, and they highlight the text, when it hits that picture, it'll actually describe to them exactly what you typed in there. So they'll hear it says picture of Pink Panther. You should put this into every image you put into a web page. You should never leave the alt blank, because then you're making your web page as compatible as it can be for people that are visually impaired. You don't want to go overboard with it. You don't want to say, okay, Pink Panther is holding up his two arms. He's pink. He's got a smile on his face. His eyes are yellow. You don't want to sit there and put in 2 paragraphs. Somebody who's visually impaired does not want to hear that. Now you might say, well, how would I know what Pink Panther looks like if I don't actually describe it? See, this is your call. If describing it in detail is essential for the understanding of your web page, then you should describe it in more detail. If it's really inconsequential in terms of your web page, then you just want to give it a brief description, because you're just going to lose them anyway if you give that real lengthy description when it doesn't matter. Now you can use other items besides JPEG and PNG. You can use GIF, depending upon, that's where GIF. If you have a bitmap, do not use bitmap. There's a lot of other image formats, but the three you should use are PNG, JPEG, and GIF. Now, just to show you what those look like, if we do an image, and I'll say source equals, and then pink.gif, that's a GIF, or GIF, some might say. Now, another JPEG you might run across is where you got JPEG. This is what I was trying to find over in Google. Some for their extension, instead of putting JPG, will put JPEG. So you have to kind of know that when you're planning your web page. And it also is very beneficial if you can actually see your extensions. That's why it may say JPEG over here, but maybe it's JPEG, and you need to know that for your design. Because if I put the wrong an extra E in here when it shouldn't be there, or vice versa, then it won't work. Okay. Now, over here in our folder, this is true about any Windows box. You can right-click anywhere in the white space, and you can say New, and you can say Folder. And I'll call this folder Images. A lot of people like to have some structure to their web page, such that their images aren't mixed in with the regular ones. Now, this Pink Panther here is the one that we accessed. So I'm going to move this, and I should be able to click it and drag it and just drop it into the images right here. And now it's in the images folder. So now if I come back here, refresh this, it's gone. And even more than that, see, it says picture of the Pink Panther. I wanted to show what the alt text does if your picture's gone. Well, we put it into the images folder. So instead of referencing the image direct, and this I might have to play with a little bit because I'm not sure if I know the syntax exactly. I always put the wrong slash. Let me go ahead and put that slash. And I guess our folder was called images. So I put images slash. Let's see if that works. And that worked. This first part here is telling it to look in the folder images for this file name. Benefit of this is you can organize your web page. The disadvantages of this is if you move your web page, all the files in your main folder, and you don't copy the images folder over, then it'll break. Now this is called relative referencing. Let's take a look at absolute referencing. In order to do that, let me go to my web page. So I'm going to go to Mathiels. I don't have a whole lot of images on here, but I got this image here. If I right click on this, you'll have different ways of accessing this information. See how it says copy image address here? Let's do that. Copy that. In different browsers, there's different ways of accessing that information. But I think you get the idea from what I put in. If I come down here, and I really wish I could locate home and end. I see home now. Okay. So I'll put an image in here, and I'll say source equals, and then I'll paste. So I'm going to do a Control V, and then close that off. Now save this. Now if I go and load up this page again, refresh it, I see my image from that page. This is an absolute referencing. Absolute is when you start with HTTP and then you carry it out to wherever you need to go. Now, with the relative, there's a little bit more to that, but that'll kind of is all you really need to know for introductory for images. Absolute is nice because it doesn't matter where I move that this web page to, the images.html, it'll always find this image. never will it ever not find it. Problem with Absolute, though, is if this changes, like if I take this term.jpg and I move it to a different folder, it breaks, which it break anyway. But sometimes it's a lot easier to copy this image to your own server and then reference it in that manner. Now, this gave you an introduction to images, and the thing about HTML is I'd encourage you just to experiment, to play, learn about it, Google, and read about how to do different things in HTML. This isn't meant to be an all-inclusive coverage of everything you can do with images.